welcome to That's Canon, the podcast talking about the Canon film series and other similar movies. This is episode 65, and I'm Phil.
And I'm Greg.
And Greg, we are in the middle of our summer heat wave in spring. The water wars are upon us, and the only way to cool down is a Michael Dudikoff film, Avenging Force.
Why is that cooling us down? Is this cool, dry action star wit?
It's cooling us down because there's a lot of water at the end of the movie, right?
That's true.
It was
yeah.
in the swamp. It was raining. There's a lot of setup for things at that last part that never happened. Spoilers: alligators don't show up, despite the villain going,
"The rain brings the gators out."
I was
Yeah.
really hoping for like a really good gator scene in this film.
I don't know. It definitely didn't cool me down though. I think it just it's all these the whole movie is pretty much set in and around New Orleans, and it just looked swampy as fuck. I mean, we live in a swampy state, but that's like New Orleans on a whole other level. It's literally in a swamp state.
I believe it's pronounced Nolans.
Nolans?
Nolans?
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
New Orleans-y.
I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting it to be set in New Orleans. It's definitely an interesting setting for a film. I can probably count on one hand how many films I know from there, and it's Avenging Force.
Avenging Force. Wasn't there a season of American Horror Story set in New Orleans too?
American Horror Story, The Swamp.
The swamp, the
I don't
bayou.
even think fucking Swamp Thing is set there. I think Swamp Thing is set in Florida.
Boston.
Boston. Kid Swamp Thing's gonna go get his Dunkin'. Gotta go
Dunkin',
walk the dog and get some Dunkin', eh?
Wear my khakis.
Sam Furstenberg is the director of this film, and again, he's directed such canon classics as American Ninja 2, Delta Force 3. He'll be back again in the future, so more to see from him. He is a comparable director, I will say that.
Did he not direct the first Michael Dudikoff, the American Ninja movie we watched?
He did.
Oh, he did. Okay,
He did.
gotcha. So I think Michael Dudikoff and Steve James are definitely in Sam Furstenberg's stable of regulars, it seems.
Yeah, Steve James back in action in this one.
Hell yeah, MVP for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. He is awesome in these movies. He doesn't get enough to do.
No, he's definitely he's got he's got way more of that like action star charm, that sort of like, I don't know, it's hard to put your finger on. I mean, like Arnold Schwarzenegger definitely has it, Sylvester Stallone has it. It's a shame that he didn't show up more. I don't know if he'd ever be like a leading man, but like definitely in the squad, you know, like he should have been in the Predator squad.
Oh, 100%. I'm surprised now that you say that. I mean, who they had Clark, I can't think of his name.
Griswold.
They had Clark Griswold. He was the more dumpier guy in the Predator squad. He was like when Jesse the Body Ventura went, "I ain't got time to bleed," and it's the guy just kind of like looking at him like, "What the fuck are you talking about? You're bleeding right now."
Oh yeah. What's his name? What was that character's name?
Bill Duke. He plays Mac.
Oh, Bill Duke. No, I wouldn't want to replace him. He's awesome in Predator.
I mean, I'm not saying that he isn't awesome, but out of all of them, he's the only one that isn't rippling muscle.
That's
right?
true. Yeah, he's not like super tank mode.
Body mass alone in this.
All right, there, Mac.
We're getting way off target.
Avenging Force.
Avenging Force. Originally, this was supposed to star Chuck Norris. This was supposed to be a sequel to Invasion USA.
I'm glad it wasn't. I mean, I'm not the biggest Michael Dudikoff fan, but I think I hate Chuck Norris way more. So this movie wouldn't have been as good with him in it.
Oh, 1,000%. I think there was definite moments in the movie that you see it wouldn't have fit Chuck Norris because there was moments where you needed to emote and at least try to do something more than just standing there.
Than just being like the stoic asshole. Yeah, and the main character has too many moments of like weakness and vulnerability that just would not have fit. And maybe that's why he turned it down, honestly.
Could be. And let's get the cat out of the bag right now. The little girl that's in this movie, you noticed that wasn't her voice, right?
Oh, she was okay. Thank you, because she was 100% dubbed from like the first line, and you don't even like. It's like a long shot of her standing in front of the rodeo, calling to her brother. It's so obviously a dub, and it's not. It doesn't fit at all. It's like a 40-year-old woman doing this girl's voice. It's super weird.
What was her voice? How horrible was her voice that they had to dub Allison Greggetti's only film role?
And it wasn't even. I don't know. We could be wrong. Like we don't know this for sure, but it maybe they dubbed her after the fact. Like they had the same girl in a recording studio, and they just fucked up so bad that like it didn't look like it matched. But it felt like it was like an older woman doing this girl's voice, and how bad could it have been that they just didn't get this girl's actual audio?
I would love to meet her and ask her, like, do you remember doing this film?
Were you
And
dubbed?
why did they use your voice? And she's like, she could be like some Welsh actress. She's like, well, love, the reason they
I needed a southern accent. I couldn't do it.
I just can't. It always surprises me in films when they do that to actors. Have you ever seen Superman the movie with
I have, yeah.
Christopher
Reeve, yeah.
Clark? Before he becomes Christopher Reeve, there's that whole other actor where he plays teenage Clark. He's dubbed by Christopher Reeve.
Wait, really? I don't remember that. Oh no.
Exactly. And then in Star Wars, two famous parts of this, Aunt Beru, not her real voice, she's dubbed.
No shit.
And then obviously everyone knows this, but David Prowse didn't know he was going to be dubbed. He thought he was the voice of Darth Vader.
Everyone knows that because he's like that's the same thing where he's got this like crazy British accent. Like, oh, I'm Darth Vader. The Force is quite strong with you.
I'm your father.
I'm a bit of your father.
And then Ghostbusters 2, Vigo the Carpathian, dubbed by Max von Sydow.
Yeah, because that actor. Geez, we're way off topic here, but yeah, like he's super German, and he speaks a little bit in what's that one? Oh my god, the John Carpenter movie.
Liquid Satan.
At the Mouth of Madness.
In the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah, he's in that. He talks in that one. He's like totally sounds super German in that one. I can see them dubbing them, but like this little girl going back to Avenging Force, how bad could her voice have been?
I don't know.
We need to get to the bottom of this. We need to reach out to what's her name and get the full scoop. Yeah.
Just feel like you must be unintelligible. If this is her, Allison Greggetti, she works. I'm not gonna say it, but if this is her, I found her LinkedIn.
No shit.
So we'll see. Oh my god, it does say actress. Okay. All right.
Allison, if you're listening right now, we're gonna reach out to you. We want the inside scoop. We got to know.
Exactly.
And what's it like working with Michael Dudikoff too?
Exactly. All right. Well, let's get into Avenging Force. Full ham into this. We open up in the swamps of Louisiana, and we see these guys. They're like running through the swamps. They're being hunted by people in some of them, I guess you could say like kabuki type armor, right? Like there's one guy who is in a Japanese style mask.
Yeah, because you think it's like at this point that's the first one you see, but then you realize like there are multiple hunters chasing these dudes, and they're all masked up freaks, but they're not all wearing the same kinds of masks. Like one guy, the main guy, he's got that white sort of Japanese style mask. Then there's like a camo jerk, and then there's Dollar Store Bane and some guy and then some
gimp mask.
Gimpy Bane, and then there's a guy, what's the last guy, the main dude, he was wearing like a masquerade kind of thing, like an Eyes Wide Shut kind of mask.
Exactly. Yeah. And we don't know why these people are being hunted. We don't really get any context behind it. Eventually, they are all killed, and the four guys kind of group up, and they cheer that, the Pentangle has hunted and killed these people, and you get an idea that this is a most dangerous game type gang.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They are hunting these people for sport.
Obvious ripoff too. I mean, honestly, like you get that vibe of a Most Dangerous Game ripoff like right from the very beginning. As soon as you see that there's like injured dudes running through the woods, hunted by guys in stupid costumes, you immediately know that that's what they're ripping off.
So I don't want to spoil the movie, but I'm going to go ahead and spoil the movie. We realize at the end that these white dudes who are hunting other people are racist. They're like super racist, right?
Yeah, super racist gang. That's the name of the club.
But these guys that they're hunting are white dudes. What's the deal here?
We'll get into other areas, but like there's that what you just mentioned and for other reasons too. Like this gang of white supremacists is not very consistent in their white supremacy. There's so many other things in this movie besides the fact that they're hunting other white dudes, but there's like parts later on where like the main bad guy has like all this African art in his house, which does not seem consistent with being a super racist asshole. So yeah, it's the whole mythology of this gang, as we'll come to find out, the Pentangle is just not consistent at all.
We cut to Dudikoff Ranch, where Michael Dudikoff is wrangling baby cows, and like the grandpa was like, "Really great job doing that." And I mean, granted, it probably takes skill to wrangle a baby cow, but
they're lassoing.
Michael Dudikoff is a fucking grown ass man. Like that's like a kid thing to do, I think, when you're lassoing your steers and stuff like that.
Because it's definitely like a baby cow. I would have thought that like as far as like cowboy skills go, like that's where you start and then you graduate to like fully. I don't know. We ain't no cowboy experts, but that just seems like it's entry level stuff. So I don't know
exactly. But we meet Michael Dudikoff. He's Captain Matt Hunter in this, and then we also get introduced to the grandpa character, who he's just grandpa.
He's literally grandpa. Like everyone calls him grandpa.
And then we get introduced to Allison. And again, from the distant shot, when she starts talking, you quickly realize that is not her voice coming out of her. It's almost coming out of like a mono track.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of like how they did Bane in The Dark Knight Rises. Like she's on a totally different audio track than everyone else.
Yeah. I mean, and not to beat this dead horse too much more, but like you kind of like when you watch those Italian movies where everyone's dubbed, you kind of like roll with those punches because it's kind of an all or nothing thing. Everyone's dubbed, you sort of just tune it out. But in a movie like this where most of the characters are not dubbed, having the one that is, it makes it stick out way more. So it was definitely jarring to see.
But now it's time for Michael Dudikoff and the gang. They're going to go meet Steve James in town. He's running for senator,
yeah,
in Louisiana. Again, like a really interesting way to have Steve James's character in the film. So obviously Steve James, in case no one knows who he is, he's a black guy. And this is Louisiana, deep south. You can't get deeper than this.
So yeah, like it's interesting. It's kind of an interesting way because you know what's going to happen at that point. Like Steve James running for Senate in a movie with a scary gang of super racist white supremacy dudes. Like you can read the room on that. You know what the conflict is going to be.
Exactly. And Steve James has a very nice family, wife, 2 kids, and I guess there is some history between them. I think it would have been interesting if this was a sequel to the
American Ninja
film,
yeah,
right? Because then you have kind of like a back-in, pre-built background to these characters of why they're buddies.
Yeah,
because they almost pretty much have like the same justification for knowing each other. They know each other from the war or being in the military, right?
Yeah.
Instead of the military, it's the CIA here.
Yeah, some kind of
they were both like ex-CIA
agent buddies, yeah, something like that. And I have to say, like they, especially in this scene, Steve James and Michael Dudikoff actually have some like good buddy chemistry. It actually really works for me in this movie for some reason, especially like in this scene where they're like introducing their families or they're kind of like seeing each other for the first time in a while. It was actually it all kind of worked. Sometimes those scenes
Oh,
feel really
definitely.
forced, but this it was actually kind of charming in this one. So credit where credit's due.
Exactly. I think, yeah, from the previous movie, they have that. They don't have to warm up to each other in real life. They already know each other,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, you're right. It totally works. So Dudikoff and Steve James, they're all talking about, running for senator and how hard it's going to be because of where they're at. But it's time for them to go on a parade. It's Mardi
It's
Gras.
Mardi Gras, yeah. This is like
And
the biggest. So I think we talked about this before, but Red Letter Media YouTube channel, they coined this term, this phrase, "shoot the rodeo," where
oh,
you're
yeah.
you're basically, if there's like an event going on near your production, you go and find a reason to shoot a scene there, so you can like take advantage of the free production value. God, Phil, we had like it felt like 20 minutes of straight establishing shot of Mardi Gras, all the parade B-roll. It was mind numbing.
It was pretty insanely long. And I will say this though, fuck did it make it like it made it believable, right? Probably because it is actual Mardi
Actual
Gras.
Mardi Gras,
Because
yeah,
there's no way that Canon would have won. Been able to afford this, too, been able to do it so competently,
yeah, make
you
it feel
know.
real, like you said. If they'd cut the amount of like I said, like the Mardi Gras B-roll in half, that would have been just right because it did feel real, like you said.
But obviously, because the movie has to happen, there is a corner, in quotes, corner of Mardi Gras where all like the setup action is happening. We have two women that roll up with their baby carriages, and they post up in the corner, and then in front of them are like five guys that are playing, in quotes, instruments. They don't even have the instruments in their mouth, and they're barely pressing the buttons on like their trumpets and stuff like that.
I was gonna say they're just like randomly pressing keys on these instruments. I mean, like you know what's happening. These are clearly goons who are hiding in plain sight.
Michael Dudikoff has the visual acuity of an owl, because as soon as they post up in that corner, he's like, "Oh, look, bad guys."
He smells crime.
It's insane. It's insane how he's immediately able to hone in on them.
I mean,
But he,
yeah. In his defense, these guys stick out like sore thumb. Like they're super obviously goons.
oh, very, very, very true, very true. Dudikoff goes up to Steve James and he's kind of like, "Hey, look over there, bad guys." And the women who rolled up there with their baby carriages, they take the baby. There are actual babies in them. Take the
Yeah,
babies out, walk into the background, and then the guys pull out tons of guns.
those guys are stealing those babies' guns.
So that woman, again, I know they're about to murder a bunch of people, but those women risk the lives of babies in order to smuggle guns.
Yeah, that whole setup doesn't really like pass the smell test because like did the women not know that there were like a pile of Uzis in their baby carriages, or were
I
they
don't
in on it?
know.
And
Because again,
it doesn't make any sense.
the Pentangle are full of racists, but did they hire these two black ladies to smuggle in guns? Did the
Yeah,
Pentangle like put guns unbeknownst to these
did they
ladies, and then
smuggle
these
them in
ladies are
there?
just ditching their baby carriage? Baby carriages aren't cheap.
That's the other like see that's like that would be the only thing that made sense except for the fact that they clearly like they both pulled their children out of the carriages at the same time and then they just like pieced out and backed off into the crowd and left the carriages there like right there on Front Street to be picked up by these goons. It like they were clearly in on it, but yeah, like the fact they're two African American women, that doesn't make sense for them to be in on this weird racist like white supremacy murder plot. It doesn't make any
Exactly.
sense.
Exactly. But the action starts and they start shooting at Steve James and everyone starts punching each other and there's some ninja type action. Dudikoff is showing off his, pretty good martial arts skill. He's very competent in what he does
Yeah.
in these. I think the only like lazy parts of this movie is the gunplay action. It's literally just point gun bang dead,
Yeah.
right?
The squibs look real good. They're like real like big squishy juicy squibs that go off under these guys' clothes. But yeah, like the actual like it doesn't line up with the martial arts quality. That's for sure.
It's the Chuck Norris of the holdover Chuck Norris in this film, where Chuck Norris just points a gun and
Yeah.
people die, right?
Michael Dudikoff is like, I don't want to move around a whole lot. I'm just gonna point the gun and you guys do the rest.
When it comes to holding the gun, I don't want to do a lot. I'll punch and kick and like twirl swords and shit, but as soon as I get a gun, just let me kill someone.
Pew pew.
I don't know. Eventually, it comes to a head, and Dudikoff is chasing a guy over the roofs of New Orleans. This guy looks like a dweeb. He looks like an accountant. I don't know how the fuck this guy is part of the Pentangle assassin group.
Yeah, he's hardly like the peak of whiteness. This guy, he looks like an accountant, like you said, just a dweeb.
During all the commotion of the firefight, one of Steve James's kids is shot and he fucking dies. That's right. This movie has the balls to kill a child.
I mean, like, spoilers, but it gets worse. Like, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Spoilers. That's the first kid that dies in this movie.
Oh no. I could not believe it. And we're not that far into the movie. I mean, this is maybe 20 minutes into the film. And I mean, I guess like you look at the title of the movie, Avenging Force, like, you know, some serious, like some diabolical shit has to go down in order for them to like have an avenging plot. You know what I mean?
I thought it would have been like Steve James would have been clipped in the beginning. And that's the drive to avenge.
You know that you look at the title and you know, okay, someone close to Michael Dudikoff has to die. And at first I thought it was a little girl, hands down. Like as soon as they introduce her up, this girl's a goner because
adorable little white girl. She's fucking dead.
She's fucking dead. And then I saw Steve James, who we all know and love. Okay, it's gonna be him now.
Steve James in the Deep South. He's dead.
Yeah, right. Like all these obvious targets to trigger this, like, these are the people who are going to get avenged. But then it comes out of nowhere. They kill Steve James' kid. One of his kids. That's terrible.
You get maybe 1 minute of establishment for these kids a little bit earlier in the film where they're like having fun with Michael
And they're
Dudikoff.
so adorable and charming.
They are.
And it like, the movie has us hook, line, and sinker. It totally works, but you fucking hate it. You hate the movie for it.
I 100% did not see that one coming.
Yeah.
Didn't see it. I thought it was going to be one of the adults or the little white girl. So yeah, it totally works. Totally works. And then we cut to the Pentangle group. Now we're in this demonstration dojo area. And the Pentangle, they're all dressed up in their Sunday best suits, right? And then just picture a room full of white guys, old white guys.
In tuxedos in the middle of the hot southern day.
Probably a certain political party would definitely fit. There's a lot of similarities between. And there's nothing that white racists love more than cultural appropriation. As they're watching two white dudes, there's a certain style that these two guys are fighting.
They're doing kendo, right?
Kendo. That's what it's called. The wooden sticks, right?
Yeah, like the wooden they're like katana stand-ins, basically.
Exactly. And these white dudes are just loving it. And surprise, surprise, the people who are doing it are also white as well. They seem like they're a father and son team almost. I don't know. I kind of got that vibe from it.
Yeah, so it's two of the guys who, spoilers, were part of the murder squad in the very beginning. There's one who is a Jesse the Body Ventura knockoff, and then he's 100%. Dollar Store Bane. And then we get fucking adult Wesley Crusher from TNG. Yeah. He was in Delta Force. He was the kid, and he was in this too.
And I gotta say, every time I see him, because I don't think of him as adult Wesley Crusher, because you've seen what Wesley Crusher has turned into as an adult, and it's definitely not a
Yeah.
beefcake like this.
Yeah, he's like 6'5" and just shredded. It doesn't not up at all. But he does play a good bad guy, a good bad henchman, I have to say.
But we also find out that the leader of the Pentangle is played by John P. Ryan, who has been in movies like Death Wish 4, The Crackdown, Delta Force 2, The Colombian Connection. This guy is a B movie dude.
B movie royalty, yeah.
Yeah. He's all
Oh.
over the place.
And speaking of Star Trek, I can't believe I didn't mention this before, but who else is in the Pentangle but Gul Dukat himself, Mark Alimo from Deep Space Nine.
Wow. Look at you, man. You've got all
Yeah.
the fucking Deep Space Nine knowledge.
Hell
that
yeah.
one went by me.
Yeah, you can't miss it because he was in what's that? He's in Total Recall also. He's got a couple short speaking lines in that too. He's like one of the Martian security force guys. I love when he shows up. He's got a really distinctive look. I love when he shows up and stuff.
Everett. He was Everett in Total Recall. Holy crap, and he was in Tango and Cash. And he was in Naked Gun 33 and in 1/3.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Oh man, Gul Dukat, you get
Wow.
around, man.
Fucking go you, dude. But yeah. So they all watch this demonstration. All the white dudes are loving it because they love foreign shit, but they hate the people
Weebs.
behind foreign stuff. Right? Kind of weird. And again, it goes against what you just said earlier, where like, why are white supremacists celebrating things from different cultures?
Yeah, they're all about white supremacy, but they're like fetishizing all these other cultures. I don't know. I don't care.
That does happen in like real life though, right? Like, I think there is a level of fetishism that people like this put on
Yeah.
different cultures and different things. They like that shit, but for some reason they just don't like the people behind it, and I don't really get it.
Yeah, they like that like warrior culture kind of thing. And I'm gonna take it back to Star Trek again. They're like the Klingons. You know what I mean? There's like that like stoic warrior cast. That's how they see themselves.
Exactly.
And just like the Klingons, they want to be racially pure. Ugh.
I think the leader of the Pentangle here, he's rousing all the other Pentanglers.
Oh my god.
Pentanglers.
We have to pause for a second. Can we talk about how stupid of a name Pentangle is for a squad?
So exactly, it's not like there's 5 of them. There's a fucking shit ton of these people.
There's a ton. I mean, I guess like they say in the movie, it's the Pentangle is supposed to represent. There's like 5 heads of the inner circle. But I mean, it's not consistent at all. And plus, the word Pentangle just sounds stupid. It sounds like a snack food.
It does.
Ooh,
Oh
Pentangles.
man, Pentangle just came out with nacho cheese.
Oh, new nacho cheese Pentangles, new Tabasco flavor Pentangles.
Exactly.
Delicious.
I like to put them on the tip of my fingers when I eat them.
I was just
Like
thinking of
witch
bugles too.
fingers.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Pentangles.
Like, I guess when you think of like, again, it's probably because it's a movie. Because you think of like the KKK, Nazis, those words, those groups. When you hear them, definitely invokes a sense of unease. I think because
Immediate
Pentangle
emotional response.
is the again, like the word, it just sounds goofy.
It's that
right.
It's that tangle.
Exactly.
It just sounds silly. It almost sounds like a fishing tackle too.
It needs to end in like an
Pen.
like an ER.
The Pentangler.
Pentanglers. We're the Pentanglers.
You're gonna get
I don't know.
pentangled.
Why not just use Ku Klux Klan? Like, there's built-in white supremacy in America.
That's
Just
true.
ape off of it.
See that would be interesting. It's like people have like made a mockery of our great organization. Like have it be like these like neo reconstruct where they're trying to like rebuild the mystique of the KKK and they're trying to like reinfiltrate and restore the good name of the organization. Like that would have been a little bit more interesting than trying to make up another similar but in name only different kind of organization.
In fact, I think it was entertainment media kind of destroyed in aspects the mystique of the KKK when American heroes were, in quotes, fighting them. And I think when you shed the light on the ignorance of people, they start going, that's what they believe in, right? So They could even use that. I don't know.
I guess if they wanted to have a serious threat in their action movie, they probably did have to change the name to something else that sounded a little bit more mysterious, I guess.
The Pentangle.
The Pentanglers.
Like, even Spectre's better. Like, I don't know. Anyways, yes, that is the worst part of the movie, is the name, the Pentangle.
Stupid henchman name, yep.
But John P. Ryan is giving a rousing speech where essentially he's like, if you look at the white people in America, we're getting erased. There's more minorities coming in.
Blah,
we're
blah, blah,
become the
blah.
minority.
Racist
Shit
rant.
that you hear pretty much every day nowadays. The 80s have not changed. It's just, it is now today, right? So we cut to the hospital where Steve James's wife is under sedation for the tragic loss of her child. And Steve James, he's like fucking taking it like a champ, at least his character. He's very stoic. He understands the situation and what's going on. But his drive of becoming the senator and making change in Louisiana has not diminished.
Yeah.
And then the CIA shows up. Not even making that up. The CIA shows up and they're like, hey, we know that Steve James's kid just died. We also need you to infiltrate the Pentangle and take them down.
Yeah, like, I mean, at this point, so, like, we know, having watched the movie, that Michael Dudikoff's character is some kind of secret agent or some shit. But, like, at this point, when we first start seeing these other agents show up and they just, like, start taking orders from Michael Dudikoff, it's really jarring because they have not set up the fact that he is some high-ranking agent yet. And all these guys, these government feds, just start showing up and taking orders from him. It's really weird. Like why are these guys listening to Michael Dudikoff?
I am so glad you think the same way, because I was like, this guy was fucking roping baby cows 2 seconds ago.
Yeah,
and now Dingus is taking orders from him. These, like, nerdy white guys are taking orders from Dudikoff.
They are really dweeby FBI agents, I gotta say.
I don't know. It was kind of weird. And then, again, they're throwing around ranks and stuff like that. Like, Dudikoff is a captain all of a sudden now. I don't think that's how the CIA works. I don't think you have, like, rank. That's a military thing.
Well, yeah, speaking of ranks, so, like, yeah, all that starts happening. You're like, okay, so he's someone with rank, and then they bring him to the quote-unquote the safe house, which is sort of like some kind of, like, CIA headquarters or regional headquarters or something. And they
in Louisiana. In Narlands.
In freaking New Orleans. Yeah, I'm putting that weirdness aside. That doesn't make any lick of sense. But, like, they bring him into this command center, and they introduce his boss as the Admiral.
The Admiral of the CIA.
The CIA Admiral. Now,
Again,
Phil,
I don't think that's the thing.
Yeah, I ain't no military expert, but, you were in the military. Does that... There are admirals in the CIA, right? I mean, that makes sense.
I know there's admirals in the Navy. And I just Googled leader of the CIA.
They're directors.
So I'm on a list now. See, I don't even fucking know.
There's,
all
like,
I know is
directors and
Director
assistant
Skinner of
director.
FBI.
A.D. Skinner, heck yeah.
The director of the CIA is William J. Burns. He has no rank associated with his title.
Maybe the ranks are like their secret ranks. Like they call them directors in public, but they call each other admiral. They're all admirals.
It could be.
It's admirals all the way down.
Oh man. I mean, this guy, he looks like he was previous military, but once you're out of the military, you don't go by your rank anymore. People don't call me Airman Cowgill still just because I was in the Air Force at one point.
I'm gonna start calling you Airman now.
Oh god. But again, it's just super weird. And let's fucking blow the mystery out of the water. We met 4 Pentanglers. Are we really here to believe that the Admiral of the CIA is the mysterious 5th Tangler?
Whoa, spoilers, Phil. Spoilers, Airman. That's the end of the movie right there. Yeah, like this whole... They try to be super mysterious about it, but as soon as you start doing the math and counting up the number of people in the Pentangle that we've seen so far, and then we're immediately introduced to a kind of evil-looking head honcho in the CIA. I don't know. That seems super obvious to me.
You don't even have to say it. We get introduced to another fucking boomer white guy.
And he's Australian, right? Did you pick up on that?
Yeah. What is going on?
He was
I know
not doing a good job hiding that accent at all.
Yeah. But I don't. Again, like another one of those things where the I the it doesn't make any sense why the admiral of the CIA would also be involved in a racist group. It's the fucking CIA. You'd think that the other CIA agents would be like, yeah, we caught photos of him with tanglers
Yeah.
in the swamps of Louisiana.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't say a whole lot about the ability to do background investigations and whatnot. Like if the admiral of the CIA is also, dicking around with the KKK on the side, like, come on,
Yeah, super weird. But
the
so
Australian CIA admiral.
Dudikoff is brought in to protect / investigate the going-ons of what happened to Steve James, right? Infiltrate the Pentangle, find the threat, neutralize them, protect Steve James, right?
Right, because I guess Steve James, he refused Secret Service support, so they're trying to they're basically using him as bait almost.
Also, again, let's not get too off course. I don't think the Secret Service protects just fucking senators. Isn't the Secret Service solely for the President of the United States?
I think they extend it to presidential candidate. I think they do. I don't think you get the same level of protection as the president, but I think senators and Congress people do get that protection. Yeah, I don't know for sure, but I think I've heard that.
Okay, I'll believe that. I don't know.
Movie
It's a secret.
magic.
So we cut back to Pentangle headquarters, and they have stills from the movie Avenging Force on their slideshow. And they're like, look, Michael Dudikoff, this guy, total badass. We gotta
He's a
get this
professional.
guy, and we have to hunt him. These are stills literally from the film. They do the lazy thing where
Yeah.
it's the security footage is the footage from the actual movie.
We've talked about that in previous episodes, and it's major pet peeve. Yeah, like they said, they use screenshots from the movie camera, literally scenes that we just saw. It makes no sense. I guess they had a photographer in the crowd, I guess, taking shots, taking creep shots.
They literally could have just gone, Michael, just pose for this Kodak camera, and then we'll use these later on in the film. I don't know. Whatever.
See, that would have been good. They could have disguised a photographer, like a spy photographer, as a tourist to say, hey, how about a picture, Senator? And they get a picture of Michael Dudikoff with Steve James. Done.
More like dumb. Steve James, it's only been a day, but they're already over the death of their child, and they're heading out to get back on the campaign circuit. And Steve James he's been called to go on the news. And he jumps at the chance to do it because he needs to, I guess, get in front of the news story and still say that he wants to be a senator. Right.
So they're because they're sending their families away. Michael Dudikoff's, they're sending Grandpa and little girl away, his kid sister, and then there's Steve James sending the remains of his family for now. Spoilers
For now.
away, and so I guess he's going on the news or a talk show or something. Again, you're right. It seems like he's weirdly over the death of one of his children at this point.
Steve James didn't love his kids in this movie. On their way to the news station, they don't stop and clean up. Steve James still has the blood of his dead child on him.
Oh God, you're right. He does. He still has that stupid tuxedo shirt on.
Yeah. On their way to the news station, they get stopped by more tanglers. One of them wearing a red hat.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
The nerdy white guy steps up and he's kind of like, hey, Steve James and Michael Dudikoff, we're gonna kill you. And thus ensues a kind of crappy car chase.
Yeah.
The action is so distant between the cars. It's really just them kind of swerving back and forth in the road for quite some time.
Yeah, this whole action scene goes on way too long, and the car chase part of it in the beginning is really not exciting whatsoever. They're not going all that fast. It's more like a follow scene than a chase scene.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It eventually culminates in them getting to like a train yard or a shipping yard, and that's where the brunt of the action is. I guess some of the action is pretty good, and there's like the cause and effect type gags of Michael Dudikoff, like he grabs a rope and he, goes down into the belly of a ship and something heavy lifts up, right? Like there's some really great thinking moments
Yeah, they
in
use
this.
the area really well. It's like this old like it's like an old rusted out pier, so there's lots of like old ships dry docked there and like cranes and stuff. And they use the geography really well. Like they use a lot of height and stuff. And there's some really good like high fall stunts that they do like off
Yes.
the cranes. I think there's one guy near the end who takes a really huge fall into the water from one of these like giant like pier like they unload container ships kinds of cranes. That was really impressive.
But like again, when it comes to the gun action, just extremely lazy. But Steve James, he has a couple good fight moments, and again, he immediately pops that shirt off
I
because
was just gonna say, like I actually wrote down on my notes, like, wait, when did Steve James' shirt come off? It just kind of disappeared. But of course,
yeah,
you gotta pop that shirt off in an
there
action
was
movie.
there was only one moment that got an audible laugh out of me though. It's when Michael Dudikoff knocks someone off of a crane, and when the person falls, it's obviously a dummy, and when we see the dead body in quotes, it's obviously a dummy.
Yeah, because like the leg is all janked up. It's like
Yes.
bent sideways. Yeah, I noticed that too.
But
There's a
eventually,
couple dummy shots in this movie.
exactly. There's a couple dummies in this movie. Um, Eventually, all the action's over. They've pushed enough people off of these cranes that they go home. They go back to Dudikoff Ranch, and
Duty Ranch.
Duty Ranch. And despite the fact that they just murdered probably like 30 people, everyone's pretty okay. And again, Steve James
Cool as a
doesn't fucking
cucumber.
care about his dead child. They're like riding horses and shit now and just kind of talking. And while they are talking about the situation of and events that happened to them, they don't act like they actually happened, right?
No, again, yeah, they're super unaffected by the murder and tragedy that's happened like in like the last 24 hours. But yeah, they Dudikoff still makes time to go out and ride horses with his kid sister, and oh my god, so this is where we get like my runner up quote of the week, where he's like explaining to his kid sister like I got to go away for a while because he's gonna go hunt down the Tanglers, and oh my god, it's not the quote itself, but it's like the delivery because of this weird dubbed voice that we think is dubbed of the little girl. And he's like, I gotta go, me and Uncle so and so gotta go away, Uncle Steve James gotta go away for a while. And she says, government business?
Oh, I know. That's such a lame ass thing. What movie did I just watch? Oh, I was watching The Rock the other day, and they still had dialogue like that a decade later, where
Government
he's
business?
exactly. I think Nick Cage's girlfriend in the movie is like, "It's the government. You can just ignore them." It's like,
Government.
oh,
It's just like the stupidity of the line, but also just like the delivery of it. Like it just seems like something a little girl wouldn't say. You know what I mean?
no,
I don't
yeah.
know.
My kid would never say something like that,
Government
right?
business. Like, are you
Government
something
business.
like you going off to fight bad guys or something like that? Like a little bit simpler language. I don't know. I can't put my finger on why, but that got a loud laugh out of me when I saw it.
Yeah. Hmm. Maybe she's happy that she did get dubbed over. But
At least it wasn't me saying that line.
meanwhile, meanwhile at Pentangle Base, all the white dudes are shooting guns. They demonstrate that they're capable of hitting a stationary target. I know, white dudes shooting guns.
Can we talk about like how they're holding the guns in this shooting range?
They hold them like
They hold them
assholes.
like asshole. Like adult Wesley Crusher. I think you see him holding it sideways briefly,
Yeah.
and then main bad guy. He's like firing from the hip.
He's holding it kind of limp wristed, and I'm not saying that as in like a derogatory term of any kind.
He's not.
As in he's not holding it straight.
He's not holding it straight. He looks like he's like way too relaxed. Like if he fires the gun, it's just gonna like fly out of his hand any second.
Exactly. The weight of the gun is literally angling it down. His wrist is not
And
strong enough to pick it up.
to hold up a heavy handgun. And not only that, no, everyone has ear protection. No one is wearing them. They all have like the earmuffs like down around their neck, so they can't hear shit
Cooler than
anymore.
hearing damage.
Oh my god. Tinnitus, whatever. How you
Tinnitus.
tinnitus? Yeah.
I love hearing constant low hums all the time.
Yeah. These idiots.
Eventually, though, the main Pentanglers, they realize that all of these henchmen have died, and the only one to survive is Nerd Boy. And they shoot Nerd Guy in the gut. And I gotta say, this was super effective for me.
It's brutal because like we've talked about this before, where like a lot of cases, gun violence is really kind of fantasized, and you don't see the aftermath all that much. But in this case, like he takes a bullet to the gut at like point blank range, and he starts screaming and kind of like gurgling and crying. It's really horrifying.
The realization that he is dying has set in, and he does a great job selling it.
Yeah, like that like slow death from a gut wound that you can just imagine how painful and terrifying it is. And they just leave this poor guy here to like crumpled up on the floor, bleeding out.
That scene deserves to be in a better movie.
Oh yeah, it does.
And I enjoyed this movie, but that scene deserves to be in a better movie.
Yeah, exactly. That was not B tier cannon fodder.
But it's almost kind of undercut if you watch the background of the scene, because they shoot him. He's on the ground. He's crying. He realizes that he's dying. And all the white dudes just put their guns in their briefcases and lock them up, and they just walk away.
Just normal business for a Pentangler.
So weird. We cut back to Duty Ranch, and everyone is turning down for the night. We have tons of CIA agents here, probably at least 8, right? CIA agents. So these people are trained to kill.
Yeah, and the house is buttoned up tight. They're guarding every angle of entry.
So now, Greg, trained CIA agents versus a group of assholes.
A group of
running around.
Pentanglers in stupid ninja cosplay.
Who's gonna win? The Tanglers. I will say that there was a couple moments during their infiltration scene that did give me like an audible giggle. When they go up to one of the fences, and it's just like, again, we're watching this on YouTube. The definition isn't that great. It's a little bit better than DVD, but still kind of splotchy in areas. So you have this really dark scene, and all you see are these 4 white dudes in a fence line. Like, all I can think of is like someone from the CIA agency just has to look over west and go like, look at those white people. What are they doing?
Yeah, these guys who stick out like crazy in this pitch black, this farmland basically. They like poking their heads up over the fence. It's so obvious.
It's so weird. I will say they do the smart thing where they stealthily take the CIA agents out on the deck porch of this house, right? They kind of like nab them off the ledges, and they use bows and arrows to shoot people on the neck.
Silently.
Really, really smart, right?
Did you notice that one CIA agent had like a bowl of like chicken noodle soup or something?
Yeah.
Man, that soup looked like shit. It was like all dark and green.
That's what they can afford on Canon films.
Soup
But
judgment.
the moment has... The kill soup guy, and the moment has come. They have to infiltrate the house. The main Pentangler pulls out a grenade launcher and blows up Grandpa and the rest of the CIA agents in one fell swoop.
Yeah, so we alluded to this scene earlier on, but like this scene goes really fast, and the fucking characters go fast too. Like, so first, like, yeah, Grandpa, the rest of the CIA agents, they take a grenade launcher to the face. They're all like asleep, by the way. The house starts catching on fire. I forget who gets it next. Is it the wife?
So they all start, Dudikoff, Steve James, and everyone, they start running out. And the Pentanglers are on the front lawn. They start shooting. Steve James gets shot in the back like 5 times, and he gets an arrow through the chest.
Yeah, that's
Like,
right.
he
He's
has
still
to
up.
run back inside to get his child, who's for some reason in a fucking closed attic.
Yeah,
Greg.
he's like sleeping in the attic bedroom, so he's pretty much trapped in the. Again, this house is like crazy on fire at this point. This kid's like screaming for help. His dad, who's got 10 arrows in his back, Boromir style, is going back into this
Yeah.
house to go rescue him.
And Dudikoff runs in to rescue him. The Pentanglers are like, "What happens if Dudikoff dies in there?" And they're like, "That won't happen." They literally
dies,
have
he dies.
dialogue like that. Uh, Steve James rescues his child, hands him off to Dudikoff, and he's like, "Get my kid out here safe." Steve James dies. He falls off,
Falls into the
ledge,
fire, yeah.
dead.
Oh,
Dudikoff.
while this is happening, while they rush in to get the kid, the Steve James's wife, they'd already kind of gotten out, and she's looking on horrified from a distance, like behind a hay bale or something.
Yeah.
While this is all happening, one of the Pentanglers runs up to her and they just fucking executes her.
Yeah,
like,
she
off
starts
camera.
screaming.
It's terrifying.
She spits at the main Tangler, and then he shoots him.
Yeah. So she's dead. Steve James is dead.
Dudikoff.
Grandpa is dead.
Dudikoff, he's on top of the roof now, and he's looking down at the Tanglers, and they're like, "We've killed everyone. We're taking your little sister. Shit's fucked." They shoot. They shoot him in the leg with a bow and arrow. Dudikoff falls off of the roof of the house, and so does the kid. The kid turns into a dummy.
Yeah, thank God he turned into a dummy because he just fell off a roof with this kid in his arms.
That fucking kid, the way that dummy fell, that kid was dead already, if not paralyzed.
Yeah, because like, so the farmhouse is like there's like multi tiers to it. So there's like the main roof, and it's almost like there's like it's hard to describe the architecture of this, but there's like a smaller part of the building that goes higher up, and there's a roof over that, and that's what he's standing on. So when he gets shot in the leg, he first falls off that top level roof, and then hits the lower roof pancakes the kid between him and the roof, and that kid is instantly dead at that point, And then they bounce off onto the ground, and the kid is so obviously a dummy. It's hilarious.
Now they've come. The Tanglers have come up. The kid is still alive. Not for long though. The main Tangler just shoots the kid. There's no dialogue. There's no like, please don't do this, or emotional hugging at the heartstrings. They immediately murk the kid.
Yeah. Thank God they do it off camera. I don't know if I could have stood to see a kid actually killed, with squibs and everything. That would have been just too much. At least the movie had enough good taste to do it off camera.
Exactly. Instead of killing Dudikoff right then and there, they do the mustache twirling evil dude thing where they're like, "We're gonna take your kid, your sister, into the swamp, and then you're gonna come to the swamp as well, so we can hunt you for sport."
Yeah, the whole thing is that they want to hunt him, so she's basically like the bait to get him, to lure him in to their weird hunting compound.
Really convoluted. This is like one of those moments where you're watching it and you're like, just fucking kill him right here.
Yeah, that's was the whole reason, did they just want to prove themselves against Dudikoff because he's so easily dispatched their other goons? Was that it?
I think they do kind of say that at one point. They
Yeah.
have to essentially prove that they can defeat Michael Dudikoff for whatever reason.
Because
the movie
manly
has to
men.
happen. Right?
Yeah, something like that.
Meanwhile, at the CIA, the fifth secret Pentangler is like, I can't believe Michael Dudikoff killed all these okay white people. Again, it's kind of like entertainment touching on real life events where the admiral of the CIA he's not putting the ownership of the issues on the right people. Right? He's kind of trying to make excuse for the Tanglers.
Yeah, I guess in retrospect, that's how you should know that he is the fifth member of the Pentangle. but it just comes across like sounding really like callous at this point in the movie.
Exactly.
Oh, so I think this is where is this where we get the quote of the week? After outside the house?
Let's see. It's wait, government. What the hell's wrong with us? Hulk. Yeah, that is.
Okay. So after after like the night scene, they take the little sister away, and Dudikoff is sitting there, and so like the next day he runs off into the woods, and then you kind of see we switch scenes to the morning, where the house is like burnt to a crisp. It's in ruins, and it's like swarming with feds. And we get this hilarious interaction between two of these feds we introduced earlier in the command center, and they just go on this long rant about how incompetent they are. And we'll play it here.
What a goddamn mess. With all our sophisticated techniques, we still can't put a stop to these bastards.
Yeah, what worries me is their intelligence system. They seem to know every goddamn move we make before we make it, and we don't know a thing about that.
Yeah?
What the hell's wrong with us?
I wish I knew.
So
That's the movie I want to watch.
right? Like that last thing that the guy says, like, man, what is wrong with us? I wish I knew. Like, oh my God, why would they say that?
I want to see the movie about the B tier agents who are, the A-list is always in front of them. They don't really do too much. It's more of like a comedy, right?
Yeah, like they're all like the top tier agents. They're off doing X-Files shit, like the cool stuff with Mulder and Scully. And then these schlubs are down here in the bayou doing swamp crimes and wondering how these KKK idiots are one-upping them constantly. And then,
Like,
and hearing them talk about it.
We misplaced the evidence and we got to find it. And they go on some zany adventure to find the evidence that they lost.
Oh, gee whiz, boss, we sure beefed it this time.
You
Nyuk, nyuk,
guys.
Just the man. At least we are continuing with the canon tradition of like just the most incompetent law enforcement ever.
Yeah, we just don't spend enough time with those people. Dudikoff shows up in the middle of the night at looks like a really great bayou hoedown. I don't know if you call them a hoedown in the bayou.
Yeah.
But again, what I thought was really weird, if you look at the people who are at this hoedown, it's not just white people. So it makes you kind of think.
Yeah, it's like a super diverse like party that's happening, and it looks like a fun party. Like it doesn't look like these scary kind of party that you wouldn't want to find yourself at because you get hunted down and killed immediately. But like this looks like a fun party that you would want to hang out at.
And Dudikoff just strolls right up and he's like, I'm trying to find my sister. And he kind of gets directed towards the house because anytime he tries to leave the area, someone with a gun shows up and they kind of like point him towards the house.
Yeah, they shuffle him off in some direction. Not really sure.
I don't know what your thoughts are on this whole mini arc right here, but Dudikoff walks up to a man in drag.
Yeah, there's a couple guys in drag, I think, in that area, but they're like, it's not really like drag. It's sort of like what's Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror Picture Show. Like that's the kind of getup that they have him in.
Exactly, and they start talking about how they're going to auction off someone's cherry, which means a virgin, and we come to realize that it's Dudikoff's sister, the 12-year-old sister, and she's getting dolled up in makeup,
It is
and she's
so
in like
gross.
this negligee type thing.
Yeah,
What the fuck was the point of this?
what the fuck indeed? Like, did we really need to add a like child sex slavery angle to this? Like, these pentanglers are miserable enough human beings enough as it is. Do we really need that in this movie?
I mean, I am, as soon as it happened though, I was like, oh my God, this is just like a certain group of red hat wearing people. And as they watch Dudikoff, they just kind of like casually let him leave with his sister. And I was like, aren't they supposed to be hunting him? And the main tangler as they're watching Dudikoff and his sister walk away, he's like, let's give him 30 minutes. So the game is afoot.
Yeah, like you like at the time you're confused why they're letting them go, but then you realize like that was the whole point, was to lure him there, then let them go so that they would run into the woods and could be hunted.
Exactly. And then the rain starts coming down, and gators are attracted to the rain, and they start hunting Dudikoff and his little sister. Dudikoff finds a abandoned cave of some sorts, and he literally tells his sister, like, stay here, you're safe here.
And it's not even like, so here's the thing that doesn't make sense about it. Like, for one thing, it's not so much a cave as like a dungeon. It's like this stone basement, almost like a crypt. I mean, it doesn't make sense for that to be in the middle of the swamp anyway, and having it be that kind of like well put together. But also,
They should have had dead bodies in there.
Yes.
Dead bodies of all the Tangler victims.
see, that would have been cool. That I would have dismissed it if I saw some Indiana Jones style, like, you know, mummies in there. But the fact that it's in the middle of the swamp, Phil, I don't know. You lived in Florida. You don't dig basements in Florida because they will fill up with water. This, like, why is this dungeon like bone dry? And it's not only in the middle of a swamp, but it's also raining, and it's
Not
bone
only
dry.
Would it be full of water? It'd be full of the things you don't want to run into from a wildlife perspective. There'd be
Water
fucking
moccasins.
gators, snakes, spiders, anything that could kill you would be living in that cave thing.
Yeah, man. But now Dudikoff's just gonna leave his kid sister, who just got sex trafficked, in this scary, poison basement all by herself.
And for some reason, the Tanglers don't know about this place because it's night when he starts getting hunted, and then it transitions to daytime.
Yeah, that was kind of an awkward transition too, because it was like the middle of the night when he rescued his sister from the party, and then it was like as soon as he walks out of the cave, it's suddenly like middle of the day. That was a little
The
jarring.
director of photography is like, we are not equipped to shoot at night.
All the lights ran out of battery.
Yeah. It runs off battery. We have this one AA.
Yeah,
We don't have enough.
They got a couple D cells, and those always last like shit. So, well, I guess we gotta pack it in, boys.
So it transitions the day, and the first fight again is against the guy in the white mask. Again, like sword fighting, hand-to-hand combat. It's all pretty good and like competently performed between the two actors. It culminates in the dude getting impaled on a root sticking out of the ground.
Phil, since you lived in Florida, do you know what those are called?
Is there a specific name for them?
There is.
Oh, I have no idea. What is it?
Cypress knees.
Cypress knees.
Have you not heard that before?
Damn. No.
Hang on a
I've
second.
never heard that.
Yeah.
Cypress knees.
Yeah, that's what they
Damn,
call them.
Look at that.
Those little roots. Yeah. Little bit of
I
a little bit
learned
of Florida
something
trivia
today.
for you.
There we go. I lived in fucking Florida for like 10 years. I've never heard that.
I lived there for even less. I don't know why I remember that, but I feel that's just something I just remember picking up there. But you know, it's funny. It's always something that you always like think about in the back of your mind. Like whenever you're in the woods or you see those like really sharp branches sticking out from a pine tree, or like pointy sharp logs sticking up. Like you always think like, man, it would be really sucky to trip and fall on top of that thing. Well, we see that live here in Avenging Force.
According to Avenging Force, it would suck a lot.
Poor Gul Dukat gets a cypress knee through the chest.
Dudikoff kills one person. He runs back to the cave. His sister fucking left, despite the fact that he told her, don't leave.
It was really scary down here.
Essentially. As Dudikoff exits the cave, Dollar Store Bane jumps from above and attacks Dudikoff. And again, like, while the first fight was good, now we've kind of seen it.
Yeah.
And we're realizing that nothing's changing.
Yeah, you realize that like the movie is going full video game now, and we're gonna have to see Dudikoff fight all of the bad guys one by one, and you know the main bad guy is gonna be the last one he comes across, and it's just like the same fight 4 times in a row.
Yeah. After he kills Dollar Store Bane with a crossbow, the sister shows up, and she was essentially like, yeah, I was scared.
Michael.
So Dudikoff and
Michael, she says creepily from, a distance in a rainy swamp.
It does look like she's like a ghost or something like that.
Yeah, some kind of spooky swamp ghost.
As they're running through the swamp, she's like, I can't keep up with you. So Dudikoff allows her to piggyback. And I was like, oh, she's back armor. And immediately she gets clipped with a shotgun. She gets shot in the back with a shotgun.
Yeah, Wesley Crusher buckshots her, and like right as soon as she gets on his back. Oh my god.
She lives, audience. So don't think that they only killed the black children in this movie. They didn't kill the white kid.
Oh my god, I didn't even think about that. You're right though. God, fuck this movie.
So think about that. But yeah, adult Wesley Crusher, he's shooting his shotgun at Dudikoff. Dudikoff takes a fucking grenade. Like,
oh my god,
duper close.
Yeah,
he would have died.
And this grenade was serious business too. Like, it was like a bunker buster. It at least didn't turn into a fireball like a lot of movie grenades do. But the shockwave of everything knocked him like 30 feet away. It was huge.
Yeah. Again, I was like, that would have 100% killed him. But Dudikoff gets up and he's ready to fight, and he gets a knife and he stabs Wesley Crusher in the heart, and he dies. He pulls out his wallet, I guess, to show like 4 people in the pentangle, and so Dudikoff, I guess, finally realizes he's not just killing random white people.
He was he just wanted to rob him. He took those hundreds he had in his wallet.
I thought the whole thing was kind of weird. Like,
yeah.
What's up with the wallet part?
Why did he take that out?
If he never, I don't know.
Maybe at this point,
make any sense.
maybe he was trying to like he knew he was going to fight the 4 of them. Maybe he was trying to think ahead to like, maybe he knows he's got some evidence on him as to who the 5th one is. I don't know.
He needs to know what the 4th guy looks like because of this reason up here. He gets up to the edge of the swamp and he sees the highway, and the old Pentangler, the leader Pentangler, shows up, and they start fighting. Dudikoff stabs him.
Like in the dick.
Yeah. Stabs him in his dick, and he crawls away into the swamp to become a swamp penis creature.
A swamp penis creature. Avenging Force 2, the penis creature.
The swamp juice gets into his dick, and it infects it.
That's a serious like supervillain origin story there.
Yeah. So he doesn't know who it is until he saw the picture. So now he shows up to CIA headquarters, and he hands off his sister, and he tells the CIA, this is a white girl. If she dies, I'm going to hold you responsible. But not like Steve James's kids.
Because we've already forgot about them as a movie.
Exactly.
God damn it. Just the worst characters.
Dudikoff goes, I've already killed Bobby, Johnny, Jeff, and there's one Pentangler left, and I know his name despite never seeing him before. I know who he is. And he's like, by the way, there's a 5th guy out there. I wonder who that could be. White man. And then
wink, wink.
Dudikoff he doesn't shower. He doesn't clean up. He immediately goes to the leader's house.
Right.
The leader, by the way, he's in a smoking jacket. He's like eating with new white guys.
Yeah, so like I'm glad you brought that up, because it's like there was weird like missing time for Dudikoff, because like you said, he's still in the nasty, like bloody, swampy clothes that he was wearing when he got out of the swamp. Whereas main bad guy has showered, cleaned up, found time to heal his serious knife to the groin injury, which would be septic as fuck, by the way, for standing in a swamp when that happened. And also had enough time to not only do all that, but organize a brunch with the rest of his racist friends so he could rant some more. Like, how long has Michael Dudikoff been standing in those nasty clothes where he's had time to do all this?
He's got trench foot, at least.
Trench groin.
I think this is the point where the leader of the Pentangle says a line where it's like, Adolf Hitler was right. So you definitely know, like, if you say shit like that.
He went full internet meme.
Yeah, exactly.
Just the worst.
his super white butler. This butler's so white, his fucking beard is white.
Nazi Alfred.
Exactly. He's like, mein Führer.
Oh no.
He's like, yeah, Dudikoff is at the front door. He looks fucked up. He's here to kill you. And he, did you notice, though, that he was holding a kitten, the leader of the Pentacle?
I did. And God, so I have a black cat, so I'm especially sensitive to seeing black cats in movies. But this poor kitten, he was holding that kitten so, like, roughly. He was practically, like, squeezing it when he was petting it. And he just, like, hands it off one-handed, like, by its hind legs to Nazi Jenkins there. And it's just, oh my God, I hate seeing that happen in movies. Animal cruelty in movies is the worst.
Do you think it was a commentary on, like, he's racist? It's a black cat?
I don't know if I give this movie enough credit to have thought of that. I think that they just
animal cruelty. They don't give a fuck about that cat.
They don't give a fuck. I think they just thought, it's a thing that evil guys do in movies where they like are petting a cat like a James Bond villain. And
yeah,
I think
Blofeld.
Yeah, that's probably as much thought as they put into it.
They're like, I've seen this in a James Bond movie. Give him a cat.
Give him a cat.
Like, we only have this kitten, and it's kind of a dick. Hold it really tight.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, probably meowing up a storm. They just didn't capture the audio from it. Ugh.
Dudikoff shows up. He is drenched in blood. And the leader of the Pentangle is like, let's go up to the Great Hall.
It ain't that great.
Yeah, it's okay at best.
It's like a tiny little room.
It's full of weapons from foreign countries.
Again, like totally inconsistent with this guy's whole manifesto. He's got like really nice African art and weapons and masks, and he's got like all of these like armor and weapons sets from various Asian countries too. Like it's like a super diverse collection of historical artifacts and weapons, which makes no sense for this white supremacy guy to have in his house and cherishing like he does.
They should have gone upstairs and it should have been all Nazi shit, right?
I mean, like
Nazi shit in white robes, and they're like, "This is the pinnacle of."
Yeah, you would think. I mean, I think like the closest thing that we got to that was he did have like Roman art or like a Roman set of armor. Nazis have this weird obsession with Roman history too, like that's the closest thing that we got to what you just said. But that's really what it should have been after that whole Nazi Adolf Hitler rant.
Yeah, like really bad attempts at drawing his own swastika, like he does it backwards.
like all those like teenage idiots like spray painting on a tunnel wall or something.
He's like writing a manifesto. He has like a Alex Jones VHS tape or something. I don't know. Like,
his Info Warrior room, that would have been great.
It's just again, I don't really get it. I don't get it because it's 1986. Batman 1989 doesn't come out. So it's not like they're aping off the scene where Bruce Wayne goes in there and you see all of these different warrior statues throughout time, right?
Yeah.
So I don't really get what they were doing here. Maybe the writer in Sam Furstenberg, to their defense, maybe they don't understand white supremacy, and that's really good, right? Maybe they don't understand that like, if you're a white supremacist, you dislike other cultures.
Yeah, I mean, this movie did a good enough job making you hate the main bad guys. I don't think we needed to go fully historically accurate white supremacy movement. That would have been too much. I'm happy with the level of inconsistency here.
But you think it's canon. You think that like Menachem Golem, they would have been like, we need more of this shit in here, right?
Making it super uncomfortable.
What gets money? Controversy.
Yeah, that's true. Thank God they didn't.
Dudikoff and the Pentangler guy, they all grab a weapon, right? Dudikoff grabs a stick, because why the fuck not? And I thought the main Pentangler was going for the whip. Did you see that there was like a whip?
Was there?
Around the Roman guy's like waist? It was like a whip type weapon, but he grabs like a fucking shield, and they start whacking at each other. This fight scene's a little bit lazier because obviously the main Pentangler guy is probably like 60 years old. He cannot keep up with Michael Dudikoff.
No.
So everything is telegraphed from like a mile away.
Yeah, really, really obvious. And I think the fact that, like, again, they say it's my great room. It's a really kind of a small room, and with all, like, the shelves and display cases and stuff, they don't really have a whole lot of room to sort of move around, so the fight seems kind of cramped.
And it culminates in the main Pentangler starting to strangle Michael Dudikoff. And as Michael Dudikoff is getting choked out, he sees this really cool African statue with like a spear, and he somehow like shimmies or slings the main Pentangler onto the spear of this African statue, and he dies because he gets stabbed through the heart. Irony at its best.
Maybe that was the only reason that they went inconsistent with it, so that they had an excuse to have him die on an African spear.
Again, it's just so weird. But so then we cut to Michael Dudikoff. He's at the hospital. He's checking up on his kid sister. The nurse is like, "Don't worry,
she's dead."
Despite the fact that this movie is about the evils of racism, your white sister is going to live.
She's got not a scratch on her.
James's kids are dead. I just want this known.
Oh my god. This stupid movie.
Both of his kids. And then the admiral of the CIA is outside the hospital, and Dudikoff is like, there's 5 points on a pentangle. There's one more white person that I haven't killed.
I wonder who it is.
Avenging Force 2 never came out. So we'll never know because we don't really get an answer. We just assume that it's the admiral.
Yeah,
of the CIA.
he gives the admiral some googly eyes and then walks off into the cave.
He gives him some googly eyes. He's like, "There's 5 points on a pentangle.
There's 5 points. I kill 4. That makes 1 more, admiral." And then and then we get a stupid freeze frame of him walking towards the camera, and that's
get the angle of my dangle.
The angle.
I gotta say, like, sometimes we talk about these movies and I like them more. We talked about this movie, I like it less.
Yeah.
I gave this movie 3 stars in
It's
the morning when I watched it.
Yeah, it's like when you talk through some of the inconsistency about the whole like the whole bad guy movement. I don't know. It wasn't a bad action movie, like B action movie. I think we've seen worse. I think I'm in the same boat though. I think I talked myself down from a 3 to like a 2.5 or a 2.
I think it's because there's 2 main like plot points for a movie going on here. There's the most dangerous game plot point, which is woefully
underdeveloped, yeah, for sure.
Executed. And then there's the political racist thriller that's going on. That's also done in such a way to where, again, racism, horrible. Obviously, we don't need to talk about that because you should know that because it's a fact of life. But it goes in such a way that it's almost a parody of itself because the only fucking people beyond the bad guys to die are literally the African American characters.
All of them.
All of them.
Every single one of them.
In this movie.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part of it that made me hate this movie a little bit more than I did when I first watched it. Because it's something it's so swept under the rug that only the fact that we talked about it again and we kind of relived it and pulled it apart with a fine tooth comb, like only then does it kind of like, wait, you're right. Those are the only people who died. I mean,
the avenging force shouldn't be the white person avenging the death of the black family. It should be Steve James avenging the death of his one dead son, 2
dead kids, and dead wife.
Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Not only did they all die, not all of the bad guys died. The mainest of the main bad guys is still alive and is the admiral of the CIA.
But that makes even less sense that he's the main bad guy because throughout the entire film he doesn't do anything evil besides being white.
No, like that alone, just from like just plot structure perspective, they didn't set up enough for the audience to believe that he was a plausible fifth member of the Pentangle. Like, he didn't do enough, or didn't have enough sort of like, suspicious motives for things, or seemed like he knew a little bit more than he should because he was actually in on the whole scheme. You know what I mean?
Never talked down to Steve James or about Steve James.
Yeah.
The two other CIA agents was a nerdy white guy and a nerdy black guy. He never, like, outwardly to the audience disparaged either one of them in any way.
Yeah. They didn't sow enough seeds of doubt about the Admirals being a good guy for us to believe that he was a fifth member.
It's almost like this the the writers, as they were going through the movie.
Shit, we only had 4.
Yeah, and they're like, well, just make him say that Pentangles have 5 points. And then we'll just allude to that the Admiral of the CIA is the 5th one. Right? Like, I don't get it.
I love the idea that they got to the end of like writing the script, and it didn't occur to them until the very end that they had set up this concept of there being a number of people to correspond with the name of the gang. That they didn't realize that there was like a major plot thread that they were going to leave unfulfilled if they didn't shove that line in.
It's so weird. It's so lazy. It's so sloppy.
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
again, like we breezed through this movie, and we were pretty light on the subject matter of it because the movie itself doesn't take itself that subject matter seriously, right?
No, it's all dealt with pretty silly. I mean, I think it probably was ultimately into the movie's benefit that it did that, because it made it a little bit more, it let you enjoy the other parts of it, like some of the interesting stunts and action and explosions and all that stuff. Like, you could enjoy some of that a little bit more guilt-free than
exactly, because if we were talking about like Schindler's List right now, it'd be 2 hours of just awkward silence of like, I don't want to talk about the next scene.
Yeah, exactly, because it's just so real and depressing that it's hard to talk about. Yeah,
exactly. I wonder what it was like for people of a different race or culture to see these movies when they were coming out, right? Because, like, probably for the average white person, they go see this
and they don't think about it.
They go home and jerk off, right? They're like, "Fuck white people." But like, what about just like and again, maybe it's just because we're more aware of it, right? That representation matters for everyone.
Yeah.
What did other people of different races have in the 80s? It was just like the coolest guy in this film, Steve James, he died.
He died halfway through. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something that probably flew under people's radar until, years later when people like, yeah, we're talking about it now, and it's like, oh, wow. That's why a lot of these things age like milk the way that they do.
Oh, this is like, exactly. This didn't turn into fucking cheese or yogurt. I don't know what happened.
It's some serious Parmesan going on in Avenging Force.
Exactly. Just to note, Kane Hodder was in this as a thug.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
I think this was one of his earliest films. This is post him getting set on fire in, like, he got, he had a fire stunt that went wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
So this is after that.
But before, because he started playing Jason Voorhees in part 7, right? New Blood?
I think so. Let's take a look.
I remember it was later, so yeah, this probably would have been pretty close to when he got cast as Jason Voorhees in some of those movies, because I think those were later 80s when those movies came out. Some of the later sequels.
Of course, as Thug, and then part 7. It was 2 years later. He stars as
88.
Jason Voorhees.
Okay.
Yeah. So
good for him.
Interesting. It's hard to believe that in 1986 he was 22. I think mainly just because he plays these creatures, and then when you see him as a real person, you're like,
he's a huge dude too.
Exactly. It's hard to like sometimes guess how old certain people are.
Yeah.
And Kane Hodder falls into that, I believe.
Yeah, he definitely seems older. That's kind of cool. I have to go back and see if I can pick him out of the crowd then. Neat.
But yeah, that was Avenging Force. Limp Noodle. Some anything that Steve James does in the movie is great.
Yeah.
Everything else is okay. Michael Dudikoff I liked a lot more though.
Yeah, he was. It was definitely more annoying in American Ninja. This one not so bad. Steve James is great as always. As much as we were like, kind of like laughing at the dubbing on the little girl, she was hands down way better as a child character than in a lot of other movies we've seen. Also, Steve James's kids were great. Like none of the performances were bad, and honestly, I feel like we've got to give credit to the main Pentangler. Some of those, like playing a really bad guy, a really convincing bad guy or villain in general is such like a thankless role because you just hate them so much. But you've got to give credit. Like we hated this guy, and all of the Pentanglers by the end of this movie, they were just such dregs of human society. Like credit where credit's due. Great performances there.
So this was one of Michael Dudikoff's required roles because of his canon contract. His movies were supposed to get higher in budget and bigger in scope. Obviously, like Avenging Force feels very similar to the Ninja film that he did, and that's because of all the financial woes that Canon were going through at the time. This film, it did not open big. It was only in 500 movie theaters, Greg. So despite the fact that this is in quality a step up from American Ninja, it bombed at the box office because Canon couldn't afford to put it in movie theaters.
And I say 500. Sounds like a really, really small release. And I'm guessing their advertising budget was even worse.
It probably was like a trailer that was played in the Canon offices. I mean, we are definitely on the decline of Canon as a company now.
We've crested.
Yeah. But I will say, like, this is a better film than some of the other Canon stuff that we've seen.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I will give it a slight pass. I will not recommend this to anyone though. I cannot recommend that you spend any amount unless you need to fill out your Steve James filmography list.
And why shouldn't you?
You really could skip this.
Yeah, it's kind of. I mean, I think the best comparison is against other canon action movies. I think all of the Charles Bronson ones still reign supreme for me here. All the Death Wish sequels, 10 to Midnight, Murphy's Law are all much better than either the Michael Dudikoff or the Chuck Norris movies. So this one's probably middle of the pack, but still behind all of the Charles Bronson ones if I had to rank them.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Charles Bronson, that dude is, he's a fucking national treasure. And I can't believe I'm saying that. Because if you asked me 2 years ago if I like Charles Bronson, I'd have been like, no. But I do. I like Charles Bronson now.
Yeah, he's got a charm all his own. And boy, yeah, I think seeing all these other kind of action movies gives us better perspective on his stuff for sure.
Exactly. Well, Greg, has there been any quality films that you have watched recently that you would like to bring up?
I would say so. Becky and I, we went to the Alamo Drafthouse to go see the new Doctor Strange movie in the Multiverse of Madness. Finally went to go see that. We're at 2 weeks now from when it released, right? Or
by now, this is the third week.
Third week, yeah. So but the theater was still pretty well packed when we went to go see it. I think I liked it better than the first Doctor Strange movie. The first one felt very kind of middle of the road as far as like MCU intro movies go. This one was definitely a step up. Still probably not my favorite, but it had some really interesting visuals. It didn't have as much Sam Raimi charm in it that I was kind of hoping for. So, I mean, yeah, so Sam Raimi directed this one. Obviously, Bruce Campbell has a cameo in it, which is hilarious. But that was really the only sort of Sam Raimi-ness.
I haven't seen it yet. So I'm going to ask you a question. Feel free to spoil it if I'm right.
Oh, boy.
Bruce Campbell, does he play Mysterio?
He does not. No.
Okay. That was what he was going to be in Spider-Man 4.
Really?
Yeah.
That would have been pretty funny then if they put him in here as like playing Mysterio on a TV show or something.
Yeah.
That would have been cool. No, his cameo here is much closer to his ones in Spider-Man. I think the first one where he was he like a maitre d' at a restaurant or something.
The first one, he is at the wrestling ring. The second one, he's the snooty usher. And number 3, he's a maitre d'.
Yeah, that's right. He's definitely more like that. I won't spoil it, but he's definitely more like a just kind of like a background character. So that was cool, but you didn't get a lot of the other kind of Sam Raimi hallmarks. It was definitely, and I take that back. Maybe this was a Sam Raimi influence, but this one felt like it had some more like grisly and gothic imagery into it. I mean, there's some things that are like felt almost a little surprisingly gory for a PG-13 Marvel movie. Not like super gross out kind of stuff like Cannibal Holocaust here, but still pretty.
I did read a couple things where it's like, how did Marvel get this to be PG-13?
Yeah, and I think the only reason is because it's not super realistic. Like it still has that kind of cartoonish veneer that a lot of the Marvel movies have. So I think that's probably what saved it. But overall, definitely, I mean, it's another Marvel movie. There's a level of quality that you can come to expect from those, and this one certainly isn't any exception to that. So it's worth your time for sure.
Nice.
What else? Oh, so I watched the episode of Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs this week. He played Nosferatu, the 1920 vampire movie, a silent movie. I kind of was on a very brief silent movie kick after that. So I watched Nosferatu, and then I went and I actually just got a copy of Charlie Chaplin's City Lights in the mail the other day. So I watched that, which is hilarious.
Nice. Those old movies look great on Blu-ray.
They look fantastic on Blu-ray, and they've corrected a lot of the timing issues that you tend to see with when you see clips of old movies. Like they play them at the right frame rate, which is important. But it otherwise looks great, and I think I'll probably start watching more of these because I think for a long time I sort of stayed away from silent movies just because it was too much of a leap for me and too much of a change from what I was used to film wise. I think I've seen enough older movies now, like quote unquote talkies, at this point that I think I've acclimatized enough to go back and really appreciate the silent era. So I'll probably go back and watch some more of those. But yeah, that's what I've been watching.
Do you think there was some dude in like the 30s and 40s when they turned to talkies, and he was like, I'm sticking with these silent movies? Voice, that's a fad. No one wants to hear people talk.
Well, it's funny you say that. I actually read a little bit about City Lights. So this City Lights came out in 31 or 32, I think. Speaking in movies had like that was a thing then. I think that was like a mid to late 20s that talkies kind of became a thing. But I think Charlie Chaplin, he just liked the silent movie art form. He appreciated it so much. Like he wanted to keep City Lights silent at that point. So that was like a conscious choice. But yeah, like I could totally see people like thinking, like jump to the 90s where people thought the internet was going to be a fad, a passing fad. You know that there was people out there who were like, it's going to pass, and totally missed the bandwagon. What have you been watching, Phil?
Nice. I had COVID this week, so I watched a lot of shit. I watched Puppet Master 1 through 3.
Oh.
Have you ever heard of those movies?
I've heard of them. I can't say I've seen any of them. I know like the look of the puppets though.
Yeah, puppets look great. The stop motion looks great. The first 2 movies are kind of same. The third one though is set in Nazi Germany.
Come again?
Exactly. Super weird, but honestly the third one so far has been my favorite. Just because of the absurdity of it being set in Nazi Germany.
It's a prequel to Avenging Force.
Exactly. I watched Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers, the new one on Disney Plus. A lot of fun. My kid, despite not knowing who Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers are, had a really great time. So it's definitely worth a watch. It's one of those kind of like a reference movie, right? Like, I remember that.
kind of like
gags like that.
It's like a nostalgia thing because I mean a lot of people our age grew up with Chip 'n Dale, and it's probably like a hey, now they're gonna go take their kids to go see it.
Exactly. I watched The Rock with Nick Cage. I watched Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Hell yeah.
With Nick Cage.
As Khan.
Yeah, exactly. I watched 2 Vinegar Syndrome movies. The first one I'm not going to talk about at all. Alien Private Eye sucks. The second film, Beware, Children at Play. Now, Greg,
You watched it.
I did. You've seen this one, right?
I have. I got my copy of that a couple weeks ago and saw it.
I can tell you, I thought that was the movie I was going to watch this weekend with children dying. Then when Avenging Force started killing kids, holy shit.
That's way too much violence against children to have on one weekend. I'm so sorry.
Spoilers, like they fucking killed 10 kids at the end of that movie.
Yeah, it's kind of notorious, that movie, for that scene alone. I mean, there's some funny bad acting up to that point, but that last scene is why you watch Beware Children at Play, and it's worth it.
There was one of them. It's like this blonde boy, and they put a gun in his mouth, and they fucking shoot, and then there's like the blood splatter. I looked at Jackie and I was like, "That's a gif right there."
Like this movie goes beyond the pale in terms of like, because like in Avenging Force, all of that was sort of off camera. It was enough to give you the shock value of violence against children, but not being like exploitative. Beware Children at Play is like, they pull zero punches. They show all of it, and they like get really creative with how they're killing these kids in this movie. It's terrifying.
I will say, if you go to letterboxd.com and you look up the That's Canon Letterboxd on there, my review, it's 3 stars, and all it says is that was a pretty dope ending.
Everything else is pretty forgettable, but yeah, you watch it for that last 5 minutes.
What a fucking movie. But yeah, that's pretty much what I watched this week. And are you ready for the next one?
I am absolutely ready. Hopefully something with a little bit less dead kids and Nazis, please.
I can almost guarantee you that there's no Nazis or dead kids.
Thank God.
Because we've pretty much already seen this one before, Greg. Do you remember The Ambassador?
Yes.
Remember the movie where he has to get Ellen Burstyn's sex tape so it doesn't ruin his political career?
The only reason to remember that movie because Ellen Burstyn was in it? Oh, yeah. Or gross.
Do you remember when I told you that 2 years later, Cannon remade the movie?
Oh, God, no.
Called 52 Pickups, starring Roy Scheider and Anne Margaret.
I do not.
Directed by John Frankenheimer.
I remember now because I guess we're going to watch it. God damn it.
Yeah, we're going to watch it. 52 Pickup, the neo-noir crime film directed by John Frankenheimer, starring Roy Scheider and Anne Margaret. Based off the 1974 Elmer Leonard book, and the second adaptation of it after The Ambassador.
The Ambassador. Jesus. I just went back and uploaded that video not that long ago, so I think that's up on that channel. I was re-listening to that. I mean, it wasn't. I don't remember it being that bad. It was just kind of a snooze fest.
The geography of the movie was confusing, and then the end kind of came out of nowhere, right? Because there was like a moment where they just murdered a bunch of Middle Eastern people.
Oh, that's right. Because like they had the students, they were all collected in like an old building or something, and they were having a heart-to-heart to resolve their differences, and then a bunch of like mobsters ran in and just gunned them all down.
Yes. So The Ambassador fails at the box office, and Cannon, needing to inject some sweet cash into their main line, look at all the films that they have and go, let's just remake this one again, because it wasn't a piece of shit the first time. What the fuck are they thinking?
What were they? I mean, it's par for the course though, because weren't you saying that they tried to like remake Lemon Popsicle, like that?
They did, yeah.
Like the sex comedy thing, and that's what became like Hot Chili and Last American Virgin, and all those really uncomfortable teen sex comedies. They just like keep trying, and they just keep trying to get lightning to strike again, and that's not how lightning works.
No, it doesn't. Obviously, they don't know how lightning works.
And they're trying to get the wrong lightning to strike because, like you said, did we really need another adaptation of that story? Ugh.
I will be very interested to see which one is better. I do like Roy Scheider. Almost immediately, the cast list is, in my opinion, better because I have no affinity for Rock Hudson or Robert Mitchum.
No.
Right? Like they're stars of yesteryear.
Yeah.
And even Ellen Burstyn, she
was the best part about that
teetering-
movie.
yeah. She's teetering that line between like, okay, yeah, she was awesome in The Exorcist, but
Not so much in The Ambassador.
yeah. So we'll see. We shall see. The next film, 52 Pickup. And don't worry, it's available for streaming on multiple places. So you'll be able to watch it without having to pay a dime. The only thing that you'll pay
Is
time.
is with your time and possibly sanity.
Because it's on Pluto TV and Tubi.
Oh God, ads.
Ads. Pizza ads.
Oh my God. So, really strange tangent. I've talked about this on the podcast before, and how that ad during the Olympics for the Pizza Hut Spicy Lovers Pizza had me hook, line, and sinker. We ordered that shit like 5 or 6 times after that. Phil,
I just fucking edited a podcast where you talked about this. This
I
is like the same thing that I've heard.
I will talk about that. I will defend that pizza to the day I die. It was delicious. And you know what, Phil? We went to go order it again on Friday. I was craving it, and it's off their menu. Or at least
Oh my
off the
God.
menu of the one that where we got delivery from. Yeah.
Horrible. Absolutely.
I died
horrible.
a little inside, Phil. I had to just like add like spicy stuff. So I had to add spicy toppings to it manually, like some kind of savage. It was terrible.
Like some chud.
Ugh.
Disgusting.
Well, maybe an ad for during 52 pickup will get me again, and I'll I'll stop talking about the spicy livers pizza and I'll talk about some chicken sandwich or something. Who knows?
Who knows? That's right, folks. This podcast has been brought to you by Pizza Hut. Get your spicy lovers Pizza Hut pizza at pizzahut.com/that's canon. Get 20% off of any ad or any order.
A bunch of people are gonna go to that and they're just gonna fuck with like their metrics because like why are all these people hitting this non-existent endpoint on our host? Like their web developers are gonna be like scratching their heads where all those are coming from.
That's right, Greg. If the promo code That's Canon doesn't get you 20% off, make sure that you email Pizza Hut at pizzahut.pizza.com. Tell them that your promo code That's Canon for 20% off of your hot deep dish action didn't work.
Did you just advertise some kind of like porno service or something?
I don't know.
Some kind of hot deep dish action?
Hot deep dish action. I wonder if that would work. If we just start advertising promo codes and people started complaining that they're not working, maybe we will get advertisers.
Just start throwing That's Canon to any kind of promo code field that you see when you're online shopping. Just to mess with people's data.
Exactly. Oh, man. Well, if you like what you're hearing, go ahead, like, subscribe, comment anywhere that you can. You can find us on all the major podcasting networks. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com // what is it? What slash is
I
it?
don't fucking know.
// You can follow us on youtube.com / That's Canon, and you can also email us at thatscanon@gmail.com. The email is thatscanon@gmail.com. And remember, since we said it,
That's hot deep dish action.